Excellent. Dobar dan. Good morning. Thanks for having me here on this great conference. I'm always very pleased to be here and visiting Belgrade. Guys who know me know exactly that I'm always very happy to come. My name is Tamas Barna and I've been working for this company called McAfee in the last nearly 17 years, most recently as an enterprise technology specialist on ML level. And my speech here today is going to be about the future proofing of security operations. So just shortly, what is behind this title. So basically, things will not get easier. I mean, look at just what Gartner is saying. We're repeatedly saying this, that a big shortfall coming around the human resource until 2020. They're estimating about 2 million shortage on a human resource for IT. Security systems needs to be adaptable. They need to work together anyway, so it needs to be connected. We are a strong believer of that security needs to be an open platform, an open source way going forward. That's how we can collaborate, and this is very crucial when it comes to efficient way of security operations, which I'm going to elaborate here in the next 30 minutes or so. So let's kick off. A little bit about our strategy, just for your best understanding how we own the dynamic threat defense lifecycle. And that's actually the layers what we see from our perspective that actually the whole industry is focusing on. Obviously the security operations. So automation is one of the key. I will elaborate this topic, and I also have a couple of screenshots to show you how we are working together with other industry vendors in terms of automation, because if we're not using automation, our chance, is very limited or does not really exist against this dynamic threat protection and dynamic threats. Orchestration is another key. I mentioned briefly at the beginning the shortfall. So we need to have a single pane of glass for our security, how to manage this with the automation together. I'm sure you all agree that everyone is looking for threat intelligence today. It doesn't matter where does it come from. External, internal, other systems, because what is the point here? So most of the organizations really missing the visibility. And you have to have the visibility. If you don't have the visibility across your layers, you don't have a chance, to protect or detect or correct something. And there are great technologies running at different layers. So don't get me wrong, the security and the vendors came up to the market, great technologies, innovative technologies, particularly in the last 5-10 years. The way how I see that we are not collaborate enough to each other, we're not sharing and caring for a couple of informations. And there are some great technologies acting in different layers. Some of them is great in detection, the protection, and the correction field. We need to learn from each other, we need to collaborate more, and that's why I'm saying that the security needs to be an open platform. And that's where I'm going to give you some example also with some of the vendors, are here today, how we are working together. So threat intelligence is a key. We all want to know this from a different source to know who's our enemy, what is the threats behind us. And these adaptive threats and dynamic threats is getting smarter and smarter. And it's also, when it comes to the cloud, there are a lot of challenges, a lot of companies moving to the cloud, some of the vendors pushing us to the cloud. We're getting more and more devices, so we all need to deal with this. That's what we're saying. We are a kind of device to cloud company. Everything is in between, data center, endpoint, network, whatever. We'll really try to keep to own this and collaborate with other vendors. What are the main drivers behind security of SecOps, security operations? So one of the things I mentioned here is the neutralized advanced threats. As I said, threats coming more and more smart. We don't want to use, this old preventive technologies and signatureless technologies. We need more and more artificial intelligence, machine learning, algorithm-driven approach, rather than just, having a signature and those kind of things. Data protection is a huge story. My valuable colleague from Forcepoint mentioned this, how important to protect the data, not only from the threat perspective, but also from the confidentiality and sensitivity perspective. There are a lot of critical environments for those who's running mission critical systems, and SCADA systems, for instance, they're very crucial for them. And again, the cloud, as I said, it's a huge driver behind this. Regulatory requirements, look at the GDPR, just went live last Friday, so one of the strongest data protection privacy in the world. And Industry 4.0, or in other terms, digital transformation. We all know that the new oil is the data. We're producing terabytes, petabytes, hundreds of petabytes of amount of data, basically. So they're all coming together, you know, IoT and all those things. So these are all the drivers behind, you know, getting a smarter security, intelligence, and operations. What is the strategy behind this? What we are also seeing that many of the organizations trying to accomplish. We call it maturity model, actually, or maturity journey of the SOC operations, security operations centers. I know, and I'm sure you agree with me, that most of the customers is buying security solutions for two reasons. One of the reasons because they have had incidents, and another reason is compliance. Agree? Basically, these are the main drivers behind this. I'm not saying these are the only drivers, but mainly, or the main drivers. During my meetings, I realized that many customers looking for SOC, either because they have had incidents, they're lacking this kind of visibility, control, provisioning, protection, those kind of things, or they need to be compliant, just to check those. So they're all dreaming about the SOC, but they have no idea where to start, how to start. They are short on resource, they are short on skilled resource, but they all have problems. They want to have a proper malware hunting, they want to dig into that, they want to be analytic driven, they want to be incident driven based on the incident response. So how we think about this is the SOC models, SOC maturity models, SOC 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, is starting on a foundational level. Foundational level that you need to be compliance focused. So you need to meet with this kind of compliance, yeah, just I want to have a SOC and that's it. It's a bit reactive approach, as we say. SOC 2.0, that's where the most of the industry and the organizations are standing recently, is much more threat focused. They are looking for some threat intelligence, as I said, either from the cloud, either from other devices, external sources. I will give some examples. They are more intelligence driven because there needs to be some intelligence, threat intelligence, automation, SecOps, and so on. And they are more proactive. They want to be before the fact, not after the fact. And the final goal, or the ultimate goal here, to go up to the trusted level. Trusted level means that we are pretty much data focused. Our crown jewelry, that's the data. That's where we all have, and we're all keen about that. So it must be analytic driven. So you can ask yourself, if there is something happening across the layers, an incident, a hacking attack, I can assure you that your upper level management will come to you and will ask you, hey, what was the root cause? What was the ports, applications, users, content being compromised? What is the threat vector behind this attack? And then you need to ask yourself, am I have the right tool? Bringing all these informations in milliseconds or in few seconds together from different systems and providing this kind of proof that, hey, we stopped the exfiltration, we analyzed this issue, we discovered, you know, other undetonated malwares in the system called malware hunting, EDR solutions, endpoint detection response, for instance. So that's the ultimate goal where we are going, analytic-driven, incident-driven, which is aligned for our business initiatives and requirements around business operations. I just wanted to, you know, show you this maturity model, which is worth to follow or worth to go on that. What are the architectural requirements around building a proper security incident response, security operations, or SOC model? Of course, the risk awareness. We all need to aware our risk. So am I compliant? Am I at risk? Am I not at risk? And what are the countermeasures behind this? How can I measure? What is an acceptable level of compliance? It's one of the toughest questions. It's not that easy to answer. Is it this, that, or this? And how can I measure this? What are the tools I have or I own to measure this? How can I reduce the attack surface? Am I aware of my threat vectors and attack surface? Web, email, endpoint, cloud, and so on. And what are the proper decisions we can take? Incident-driven response. Just go to LinkedIn and other websites. Look at how many financial services companies looking for people with analytic-driven capabilities for incident response. They are looking for people for malware hunting, for incident handling and proper incident response. That's where automation comes into the picture, and it means a lot how effectively, how comprehensively I can dig into the systems and pulling out this kind of information. So again, just think about the fact that you have an incident and you need to prove this, you need to show this root cause analysis and this kind of things. What data being compromised or breached. Threat management is also very important, the threat hunting. One of the beauty of all these 0 days and crypto lockers and those kind of things, crypto malwares, they are very persistent and they are there in the system. And until someone will not initiate to execute them, then based on how the code is written and the time comes for the exfiltration and execution, it's going to start. It's going to go back for that CNC servers on the Tor site applying the private key, battle is lost kind of scenarios. Are we able to discover those undetonated, unbound malwares based on the hash? And then how many I have in the systems? Because it's good that you catch something on a first appearance, but how about with the others, which is still not bombed yet? But there are persistently in the systems. And you know, when it comes, then it could cause a lot of huge problems. This is the architecture model behind this. And let me start from the bottom to the top. Sensor grid control platforms. So these are the parts or elements from the endpoint, networks, servers, DLP, identity management, web applications, which is a kind of entry point to bringing the visibility for you. This is where actually you can gain visibility through this kind of threat vectors to this kind of systems. Common service layer is the connector where actually fit into that by the policy management or threat incident response, whatever. And data management layer is actually where you have the actual correlations, incident response handling, malware hunting, Elasticsearch, forensic-driven analysis, this kind of things. And then it goes up, you know, for some threat intelligence, threat feed, analysis, comparison, and investigations. And then on the top, we have the orchestration, single pane of glass, kind of central-driven security management console where you're able to deploy your security posture and your security requirements and force them locked down and get them reported, running a different queries, using a full of operations and automations through that single pane of glass security management framework or console. Think about McAfee EPO. And we are not alone in this game. I told you the security must be open going forward. We need to learn from each other and we need to collaborate more. That's the only way going forward to be successful, because threats and the whole situation around the IT security from the data perspective, from the threats perspective and everything, it's not going to be better. It's not going to be easier. So that's where we are working, and I'm going to give you a couple of great use cases here with many of our vendors through the Securation Innovation Alliance partnership, where we now have hundreds of vendors providing great value on a technology level. And that is exactly the reason why we built a framework called OpenDXL, Data Exchange Layer, which is a new communication message bus, where actually any, because it's open, using a Python script from GitHub, can actually distribute, let's say subscribe, sorry, not distribute, that's the next step. So subscribe security relevant information to that message bus. And we have the TIE server, or we have an APO server who does the orchestration and will compile this kind of threat informations, either from detection, protection, correction, whatever, or visibility, layer 7 encapsulations, FID, user ID, context awareness, contextual awareness things. And it's going to be distributed across the DXL message bus to other layers, to other security vendors, to make them known, to make them aware that, hey guys, we see something big, something new here based on the new file hash from endpoint, but nobody will guarantee you that it's not going to happen 2 minutes later from the web. Is my web security device or firewall is aware of this, or should we update? how fast I can do this, how automatically I can do that. What is the system behind this to orchestrate this? To not get you more confused, I'll give you a couple of examples through some screenshots. First, let's talk about the automation. As I said, we certainly need automation. That's the only way going forward. Automatically answering for challenging response. That will help operation efficiency. That we all need it, because we're all measured based on efficiency as well. Not just from the detection, whatever, but from the security business operations perspective as well. And the people shortage, again, just to remind you. So here's one of the examples I can show you. We have, for instance, one of the technology called McAfee ATD, Advanced Threat Defense. This is our virtual or physical sandbox for reverse engineering the code. What the ATD is supposed to be called as a last layer of defense. What is the idea behind the ATD? To collaborate with other layer security technologies, and if it's not possible to decide based on different behavioral analysis, algorithms, machine learning, deep learning, whatsoever, what's happening there, in the last chance we can send the code for reverse engineering and reassembling the code. So this could be now integrated with a couple of vendors around the industry. I'm going to go into that example as well. And through the DXL, it's not just publishing the threat or the hash information, but it also provides something what is very valuable also for you as an organization to measure your compliance and show you some indications for your management, for CSO and CIOs, for the IOC data, indicator of compromise. Because that's another thing, part of the threat intelligence many organizations looking for. And DXL is the bus where we can actually update this IOC data, for instance, for the Checkpoint firewall. I'm going to show you a couple of the screenshots. Checkpoint is not only the only one firewall vendor we work with. We also have this or made this available recently with Fortinet in the industry. So we understand that every IT security environment is mixed, is different, coming from different vendors. It's not going to be homogeneous. It's always heterogeneous. So again, why we are not learning from each other? Why we are not sharing threat informations from different sources? And this IOC actually is a great example because, again, indicator of compromise is something that many organizations is very keen about that. This is our ATD from the screenshot perspective, where we can analyze the code based on the reverse engineering and putting it into the right operating systems for execution in a safe sandbox environment. Here is the report we got with all the hash informations, because sometimes this is what we don't know. This is what is pretty hidden, and we just don't come to the conclusion what's going on there. So once we have this, we can also use some information feeding back to our GTI, Global Threat Intelligence, which is one of the largest reputative databases in the world, and then set up some threshold around the severity. And this is actually the way how we're able to send it to the checkpoint through the OpenDXL. So actually this comes as a suspicious IP or malicious IP verified by GTI and execution by the ATD and verified by the GTI, either from the GTI, but feeding also back to the GTI to make it known as a global reputation. And I can then create a blacklisting rule, forcing the automation into the checkpoint firewall actually, based on that suspicious and blacklisted IP address or hash information. But this is also another way around. So if there is a checkpoint anti-bot SandBlast, which is identified a malicious hash, is also able to subscribe this information to the DXL message fabric. And actually, we can use this, so it's a bidirectional. It's not only ultra fast, because it's happening in milliseconds. It's one of the beauty of that. But another is that bidirectional. We are communicating in both directions to each other for those kind of vendors. Here is another example when we have, an activity with a malicious file actually coming also from this perspective. And that's how we are getting this information from the checkpoint firewall actually straight to our DXL console into EPO, e-policy orchestrator. And we will have the entire reputation information here, immediately feed it back from the checkpoint. So it doesn't matter if from which layer and from which direction is this coming from, we're working together, we're collaborating, and we're sharing this. Throwing the automation into the response or forensic investigations, or just applying some protections, blocking, whatsoever. Another example, we have, as I mentioned, endpoint is a huge threat vector still. It's not a miracle, right? It's going to be. So endpoint security at McAfee also has some dynamic protection capabilities, like dynamic application containment or real protect, which is a deep learning, machine learning, algorithm-driven features, apart from the classic threat prevention, firewall, web protection modules. And then based on that, we can actually launch an automated response, again, leveraging on the DXL message fabric towards to the Cisco. I think one of the biggest news was in the industry back to the last year's Cisco World, when McAfee and Cisco announced that the two largest reputative threat library merged together. This is the Cisco PX Grid and McAfee GTI. I'm not sure how many of you heard about this or aware of this, but as of today, it is a working solution. We are learning and leveraging from each other. So Cisco PX Grid and the McAfee GTI through the OpenDXL message fabric, now they get together to provide the world's most comprehensive threat intelligence database and reputative informations to different products. Also strengthening the automation and those kind of things. So here is this from the special perspective. We have these adaptive threat protection modules I mentioned, dynamic application protection and real protect. And here is something realized, then actually we can immediately send it to this information to the Cisco. And then we can also blacklisting, blocking, whatever we need to do. Just from a little bit from the integration and architecture perspective, so just to give you more idea and view on this. We have McAfee ATD, which I mentioned, our sandbox. We have another product here, striking the automation called Phantom, which is now bought by Splunk. So it's another great company we're working together. Phantom, if you heard about this company, one of the leaders of providing automation in security, automated responses for threat investigations, incident response, or forensic investigations. Through the DXL message fabric, we work like a charm. There is another example for owning or having a threat intelligence like VirusTotal. If you remember from my demo, who's been there last year, I did this demonstrative how with a crypto malware we can, leveraging on different threat intelligence, and one of them was the VirusTotal. The beauty of the VirusTotal, as I said that time, I'm saying now, 35, 40 different engines. Everyone is using VirusTotal because they have the best hope if someone at least will say something about a certain particular suspicious threat. But how about if this is not? Because it's a 0 day. Nobody knows this. It does not exist or known from any sources. So these are the challenges. I mentioned the malware hunting part. Today is very popular on endpoint, the EDR solution, endpoint detection response, which helps actually an algorithm-driven search and discovery of the undetonated, unbombed malwares. And that's where, again, the DXL we can leverage on this DXL message fabric for information and threat intelligence exchange, updating also our SIM system, our network IPS across different layers, or Fortinet checkpoint firewall, for instance. I did not mention here the valuable Forcepoint, but we also have a great collaboration basically with the Forcepoint. They have a firewall which we owned before called the Stonesoft firewall. We have this integration. I apologize that I did not put the Forcepoint logo on that. But Forcepoint is another great vendor. We're collaborating with a lot on that space, in that area, for this threat intelligence exchange. So here's another screenshot from the Phantom. This is the automation I mentioned. Here we have what they have integrated out of the box. McAfee ATD, the EPO, our SIM, and our network security device. Full-blown automation, control and enforcement, assessment and enforcement. Straight from the Phantom console. Now it's blank. So that's where we can just enroll and bringing the visibility. So if you need this kind of visibility and visualization of the traffic, just to understand what's happening across the layers, it's a great stuff. And you have a great cloud connector as well. So if you guys are in the cloud and you worry about east, west, north, south traffic, so if you have data centers and there's traffic and packets copied between the data centers or reaching the data center from the client's perspective, it's a great visibility tool, Phantom, bringing you the visibility. Again, if I can't see something, then it's difficult to take any further action. Here's our ATD console again, which can help with this kind of report and analysis back to the phone. And here's our ATD. Again, the IP, which is malicious, so we can put on a blacklist. These are just few of the examples I wanted to elaborate in the last 30 minutes, how we collaborate with other industry players. But as I said, there are other great players we work with. Some of them are here today, like Avecto for the privileged account management. We also have a great story. One of the beauty of the malware is to gain, a shell root cause access to execute something in a network with an admin privilege. We can also show and demonstrate how great value we can benefit from Avecto with the privileged account management. My valuable colleague there in the background probably will confirm me on this. So there are great stories, great collaborations. If you want to see them live, we're also here. I'm going to be here for the rest of the day to showing you or discussing this. We have some remote lab where I'm happy to log in and show you more. Guys are also here from the other vendors. So, well, with that said, I think I run out of time. Are there any questions from anyone now, or want to keep it for a break? If there are no other questions, thanks very much for your attention. Wish you a great conference, and I'll be around here catching up with some of you. Thank you.